Hello, everybody. The continuation from the last segment. In the last segment, uh, we we spoke about, or we we touched on the extensive the history of Holocaust. Briefly talking about the Jewish Holocaust, and then we moved to Africa in the recent years, in the 90s, early part of early 90s. It was Rwanda, and there was even a movie by the name based on that Holocaust, Rwanda, that took place in Rwanda. I think the movie, I remember, I think the title of the movie is Hotel Rwanda. Uh, if you if you get a it's not a bad idea to watch the movie. At least uh, you will. I mean, it'll create an awareness in you as to what's been happening around the world, and it's all the same cruelty. Human beings will never ever will look for the common grounds, no matter what. Uh, we have so many things in common. We share the same human fibers: love, hate, compassion, joy, sorrow. Name it. Human emotions are universal. We all go through that in life. That itself should bring us together. And but no matter, we could be speaking the same language, we could be thinking the same way, but human beings will always look for something that separates one from the other. We cannot bond together looking into the common grounds. We'll always find our differences. That's human nature. So that said, we'll move on to the second segment. What is it? Holocaust number two that happened 2009. 180,000 people were indiscriminately bombed, uh, aerial bombing in Sri Lanka, northern Sri Lanka, a place, locality, or the area, or the region called Jaffna, where the Sri Lankan Tamils, that's the stronghold of Sri Lankan Tamils, north and east. The majority Sinhalese, like in Rwanda, lived in the south and west, and also in the central regions. So I mean, it's very similar to Rwanda, but it's also, the history is a little more complex. Nobody knows the exact history. Uh, Sinhalese, it's shrouded with all kinds of myths, all kinds of ideas people want to propagate to glorify their side of the story. The Tamils say there's a lot of mythology, Ramayana from India, written in ancient Sanskrit language, later translated into Tamil, South Indian Tamil. Slightly, there are minor variations, but all legends and all mythology, it all depends on who is rewriting the story or translating. In the translation, the writer also tries to embellish certain events and characters the way he deems fit. It's true of Mahabharata, a great epic story, uh, a tome. It's all written. The problem with the Indian mythology, it was always rendered in poetic literature. So a lot of allegories, figure of speeches, In English alone, we know there are 32 figure of speeches, but in the same thing in the Indian languages too. Tamil is very, very rich in poetic literature. So some of these figure of speeches, like in English, personifications, alliterations, and oxymorons, irony. These are, you can see that in Tamil too. I do not know Sanskrit. I may know some words because they have become part of the regional language too. Because sometimes we use the words not knowing it's Sanskrit. So I cannot speak for Sanskrit, but it's said to be a very, very rich, powerful, uh, in every sense of the word, it's said to be powerful language. The sounds that you cannot enunciate in Tamil easily can be enunciated. Most sounds that can be enunciated in the English language can be equally or even better in Sanskrit language, so they say. Uh, I I may know like words, but I might we tend to think it's our regional language, but it's actually the origin is Tamil. The word yogi is a Sanskrit language, uh, and it's Sanskrit word. Yogi means to harness the body, mind, and soul. Like harnessing the spirit and the body and soul. Right, yogi, balancing, harnessing. But it comes from said to be the word yogi also comes. You see, the root is in Latin. Yoke means uh, to harness. In English, you say yoking. You can yoke two uh, bulls together to draw a cart. So that's yogi, harnessing two different powers, equal powers, and so and the word karma is Sanskrit, but it's now universal. In English, the word karma, everybody uses karma. That's karma, this is karma. Karma literally means action. What it is uh, every every action, like actions brings like results. Like that's what Gautama Buddha said. There's the Buddha is a there's a the term itself, the name itself. It's not a name. It's a moniker. Buddha means the enlightened one, the person who has awakened the intelligence. But if you go to the Far Eastern countries, in China, they have Buddhas in every Chinese store. They have a obese figure, and it's supposed to be some kind of superstition related to bringing good fortune. And but that's they call it Buddha, the obese fat with a bulging, protruding, tummy. That's not Buddha. Buddha is just a person who lived just 2,500 years ago in India, was a prince who renounced his princely life and became, because he realized everything was meaningless in the end. Nothing lasts in life, everything is transient. So, what's the point? What's the point? All this power, all this youthfulness, all this vitality, how long is it going to last? All these sensual pleasures, the pleasures that money brings, power brings, how long does it last? Everything will wane with time. So he realized he wanted something lasting. He wanted to find out the true meaning of pleasure, not these transient pleasures. He wants to be happy forever. So his pursuit took him to the subcontinent, now known as India. At the time, it was known as Bharat because it was a continent ruled by an emperor by the name Bharat. Subcontinent. At the time, there's 56 different states were part of that subcontinent. Now, I guess it's 28 states or maybe 29, I'm not sure. So, anyway, story of Buddha. So, Buddha, in the end, he basically, a very interesting mystic, he basically said, trust nobody. Trust no religious books, trust no Mysticism, trust nobody, trust no one who says they know what they're talking. You have to find out for yourself. So he spoke a language, now it's a dead language known as Pali. All his teachings are in poetic form in Pali, translated. Sanskrit came later on, as I understand, translated into Sanskrit, and then translate translated into all the other regional languages, including the Western languages as well. And so I studied his teachings in English, all right, and it's so much easier. So he said, basically, I'm just putting it in my own words, trust nobody, but the translation of his words would tantamount to be a lamp unto yourself. Don't look for illumination from others. Listen to everybody, but do not accept everything they speak as truth. Find out for yourself, be a lamp unto yourself. So today, let's all of us be a lamp unto ourselves. And let me finish this. And we are talking about the Holocaust, Sri Lanka. It was in context that I spoke about Buddhism. In Sri Lanka, there is Buddhism, and it is a Buddhism that's behind the successive governments throughout the independent era, ever since the British left the soil. So, Buddhism, what is Buddhism in Sri Lanka? Buddhism is practiced in all over, in the Far East, in Thailand, in China, in Korea, Japan, you name it, Taiwan, all these areas. But the birthplace of Buddhism, India, it's almost, it's nearly extinct. So it's funny, some historians quipped, we, uh, we, uh, we founded two religions. We, uh, we, uh, India is the birthplace of two religions, and we created two religions, one for the local market, the other one for the export market. So Buddhism was for the export market. It left the soil of India, and Hinduism remained in India. So that's that. And so the religion that was created for the export market uh, went to all the Far Eastern countries, including Sri Lanka, and I guess, believe 2005, no, the third century, no, I'm not too sure. Either it's later on, I believe, after the 6th century. There was a great emperor by the name Ashok, Emperor Ashok. If you go to Thailand, the, those who are the Thai people do not know, but they are so, because Thailand was partly at one time ruled by the South Indian kings, and even before then, Emperor Ashoka is said to be someone who ruled the entire India, and he was after violent internecine bloodshed and wars, conquering the other parts of India in order to consolidate his status as the emperor. It really impacted in his mind that all this killing was for vanity. In the end, it was all vain. When he became a king or emperor, he felt empty. So that's when he embraced Buddhism. And he became the one who spread Buddhism to the Far Eastern countries. So in Thailand, there's a mall known as Ashok Mall. I went to Ashok Mall and Ashok Street and whatnot, and the folks there do not know their origin, but it came from India. And the Thai airport is called Shwarna Bhumi, the airport. Shwarna means, in Indian language, it means gold. Bhumi means the earth. It's the golden earth. But the Thai people, their biggest, the capital in Bangkok, it's Shwarna Bhumi airport. Anyway, so much for the bygone. Let's talk about so Buddhism. Emperor Ashok sent his son and daughter uh, to Sri Lanka. Believe I don't want to misquote anything. I believe I could be wrong. I think it's around the sixth century or something. I could be wrong. It could be. So I better not quote, which I'm not sure of. But whatever it is, it is as the story pans out, his son Mahinda, not the Mahinda, the president who was behind the Holocaust, Mahinda Rajapaksa, but this was Ashok's Emperor Ashok's son Mahinda, and his daughter Sanghamitta went to Sri Lanka. Uh, God knows what it was known at that time. Sri Lanka was called by at different times. It was called by different names. The Arabs called by some name. The Greeks and Romans called it by some other name. The Portuguese called it by some name. Dutch, Hollanders called it by some name of their own choice, and British named it Ceylon, the island of Ceylon. And Sri Lanka in 1972 decided, what the hell, we gained independence in 1947. Why should we keep the British names here? They changed all the names. Ceylon became Sri Lanka. That's the Sinhalese name, and Victoria Park became the Sinhalese name. Everything was like, if you been to London, England, and if you've been to Colombo, Sri Lanka, is a miniature of London, England. Very resembles London, England very much. Now it has changed with the Chinese rebuilding everything, the port city and the whole bit. But I'm talking about 30 years ago. Uh, it was when you go to London, you see. If you go to Sri Lanka after visiting London, you see it's a miniature London, right? Especially those buildings in the area called Fort, uh, Cargill's, Millers. These are buildings, exact buildings are there in London City, same way the British built. Interesting. Cargill's, Millers, Bristol Building, all the names, Bristol Street, what else? Third Cross Street, First Cross Street, all these Victoria Park, Victoria Bridge. This is all, everything was changed. The fanatic Sri Lankan Sinhalese. No, we want our Sinhalese name. Now you cannot even, the foreigners even can't even say it because it's so cumbersome. Instead of saying Victoria Park, they have to say Viara Mahadevi Park, things like that. And but then, as parochial as their mentality, they think they are one of the superpowers in the world. In their mind, they think it's. I'm being cynical here, but their mindset is such. They think it's a very significant island. Yes, it is rich in landscape, beautiful. All islands are beautiful. The earth is beautiful. If you go to Caribbean islands, you think Sri Lanka is beautiful. Caribbean islands are very beautiful. Equally beautiful. So the tropical islands, but tourists who go to Sri Lanka, they come back and say, "Oh, it's so beautiful, so beautiful." Yeah, the upcountry is so full of lands, rich landscape, natural landscape, right? So that's that about Sri Lanka. And so what happened in 1948? They gained India. Now, 47, Gandhi fought one neck of a fight, a resistance struggle with the British. India went through hell. But because under the leadership of Gandhi, he was not just a political leader, he was truly a spiritual man. Like, see, one man, if you think of one person in history who said something and practiced what he said, that was Gandhi. He was a rich man. He was an aristocrat. And he was, he had you're talking about in the early 40s, the family had a Rolls Royce, and they were one of the richest families. And when they gained the independence, and the part where the Muslims majority and they clashed, Hindus and Muslim. Religion is a madness. It's a disease of humanity. We created religions, and religions have done more harm than good. I mean, yes, it was started with a good intention to regulate human society, but the destruction, death, and destruction in the name of God is unbelievable. This madness someday will. I hope the humankind will realize, right? No matter what, humankind, they want to believe in some supernatural power. So they create this supernatural power and call it God. Uh, that power exists nowhere but here, but they think it's outside, right? The goodness exists in you, the conscience exists in you, the compassion exists in you, the humanity exists in your heart. You don't look for it outside, but they look for it outside because they project the human insecurities in the entity they created, and they want to believe it's all powerful. If that entity they created, if the notion that it's not powerful, it's benevolent, it's good, it's compassionate, it's loving, all that is good. But those are not the attributes they are worshipping. They are worshipping because it's powerful. They want something in return. Humankind, right? They worship something with a selfish view. I worship you, I'll be obedient because I want to get your favors. It's the same thing in the workforce. Why do they kiss up to the bosses? Because you don't want to fall into the bad books with the bosses, right? Even if he's a jerk, the way they kiss up to the bosses to be in the good books, how the backstabbing, backbiting, the cutthroat schemes, and how they behave in the workforce, it's just universal because humankind, no matter where they come from, they're all one and the same. Their foibles, their meanness, their greed. Human nature is only driven by two foibles: greed and selfishness. And the propelling power, the force that propels these two foibles is the ego, the self-referral point. Without ego, we cannot function. But we ought to have egos that people have different degrees of egos. So, though it's your self-referral point, when it exceeds, you're not a good human being. Right? Let's leave that aside. We are talking about the Holocaust in Sri Lanka. So after the independence, what happened? 10 years, there was a prime minister, a Sinhalese prime minister. After the independence, there were prime ministers. I guess it was D.S. Senanayaka, and then there was Dudley Senanayaka. That was his son. I think Dudley Senanayaka, I think he was British educated, and then there was this Bandar Nayaka. Mind you, they are not even Sinhalese. Their background is South Indian Telugu, not Tamil. Nayakas are the Telugu dynasties. They carry these names, and then they migrated from India, and they are South Indians. The name itself implies they are South Indians, but they carry these names of dynasty: Senanayakas, Bandar Nayakas, and they are the ones who behind. It's a label. Ethnic identity is a label. Whether you're Dutch, Portuguese, English, British, French, Yugoslavian, or whatever, it is all a label, right? So for this label, we are trying to hate so much, kill so much, discriminate so much, and to defend this label, we go all the way, right? Humankind, it's like the political parties, people are delusional, people are mean-spirited. Sad but true. And Humankind will never be enlightened. See, there's a principle in economics, it's called the Pareto principle. I like to talk about it in every episode. It's very interesting, as much as I try to repeat it so much at need, because this principle can be applied in any, not only in economics, in life. The world is ruled by 3%, and 17% will work to consolidate this 3% ruling the world. 20% is the sheep population. The sheep population, same thing in an organization. 3% will rule the corporation. 17% of the executives will work to consolidate the power of the the 3% of the corporate heads, or they will try to progress to belong to that echelon. And the 20% of the workforce work for the paycheck. They just come and go, right? They just want a paycheck. In an organization, in a society, the 80% is the sheep, and the human society is delusional, so full of insecurities, and they need a god. So comes in religion, creates a religion, and it becomes a dogma, brainwash the people, and exploit their fears, their insecurities, give them the belief that there is something supernatural that has power over you. People worship. There comes the religious institutions, the temples, the churches, the mosques, you name it. And the world is controlled by two. See, mankind has the inventions of mankind, so many, that the civilization has progressed. Today, with a handheld device, we can the world is in your palm. In a handheld device, you can look up anything. You can look up history, you can look up geography, you look up anything that's happening in any part of the world, North Pole, South Pole, anywhere, Eastern Bloc, anywhere, right? Just a device. That's how far we have come. These are great inventions. Our life has become so comfortable. But two are the inventions of mankind nobody thinks about. One is money, the other one is religion. Both money and religion rules the world. Money rules the world. Religion controls minds. So all political powers, they need both these. That's why they pander to the religious institutions. That's one way to get the votes. Without the votes, they cannot come to office. Anything to get the votes. So without money, you cannot get the votes. The corporations, everything is funded by the corporations. They elect the government they want. They elect the candidate. They will elect the candidate they want. And religious institutions, keep them in good books. They get all the concessions, tax breaks, whatnot. They're all part of the echelon, high echelon. The sheep population goes worships sorrows because they are the ones miserable ones. The lack of money in their life is a big cause of sorrow. See, probably more than about 95% of our problems are related to the lack of money or lack thereof, right? And so that's so money and religion created. And so Sri Lanka is ruled by religion known as Buddhism. What do the Buddhist monks do? It was I mentioned how Buddhism came about or originated in India with Emperor Ashok sending his son and daughter as emissaries. They even went and planted a banyan tree in a location called Anuradhapura, a religious, said to be a sacred Buddhist uh, 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 city, and the tree that was planted 2,500, when I say tree, the sapling planted 2,500 years ago is today a huge tree. I've been there. I've seen that. I visited the Buddhist, uh, what is it like, I don't know what you call it. They call it the Tagaba or whatever, the whole, the structure where the Buddhist monks, and they are like, they are not like recluses living there. People go there, they have to worship them like gods. Even in Thailand, it's funny. In the see, Buddhism teaches humility, but Lord Buddha was a prince, uh, and he gave up everything and became a beggar, a vagabond, walking around begging. Whatever he gets, he would eat. Yeah, and he would go into meditation. That's the life. In Thailand, you would see, if you go to Thai, in Bangkok, it's very funny. I wouldn't say, I'm not here to denigrate anybody's religious sentiments. In the morning, the Buddhist monks come with that pot because they have to walk barefoot and they have to beg. But the people are so devout, and the working men and women, I see young women, well dressed, showered in the morning, waiting for the bus, and it just, it's a beautiful culture. I like what I saw, and so there's garlands for flower. People are, street side vendors selling flower garlands for holy purposes, and you can buy it for your own self too. The women can take it, put it on their, and the Indian women do. I don't know if Thai women do that, and they put it on their thick lock of hair, and Indian women, and so. But Thailand, I don't believe I saw it, but I saw the young women buying the flowers, and the Buddhist monk comes with a begging bowl, and it's not like humble begging. He comes, right? You can see the demeanor, and right away they worship, and the garland and money and everything. I just saw them, how the begging was done. Interesting. But in Sri Lanka, the Buddhist monks, uh, I without any qualms, partly sacrificing my fear too, I will say it's a religious mafia ruling from behind. What this religious mafia has done in Sri Lanka, desecrating Lord Buddha's name, I have no qualms about saying it. I have witnessed it firsthand. What the the political holocaust that happened in 2009, and its origin, and the evolvement, uh, we will examine in greater length in the next episode. I hope I didn't. It was, you found it interesting. I hope, so much information. I'm not an eloquent speaker. I wish I could. I wish I were. Uh, but I do the I'm trying to do the best I can. Uh, any shortcomings you notice, please put up with it. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.